Oh my goodness. What you growling at? She's all gardened over there. My goodness. Welcome everybody, and glad you could attend. So a little bit of today's discussion is going to be hearing. It's hard for you to tell, but I actually have offset ears. One ear on my head is slightly higher than the other one. Not all that abnormal, but when it comes down to my DNA, potentially an indicator. So my hearing is unique. And I didn't discover that it was unique until I was 4 years old and had double ear infections, and I had to go to a specialist because it was assumed I was going to, be hearing impaired with the damage that the infections could do. During those examinations, it was determined that not only do I have ears that are offset in height, I also have different internal structure than most people. My hearing canals are deeper. One is very narrow, very small. One is very open, big. Uh, the doctor at the time came in and explained to my mother and grandmother that I had owl ears. But it also gave me a clue as to why I do some of the weird movements that I do. And I didn't do them so much before I had my double ear infections, but I do have partial hearing loss. I can't hear anything in the 20 hertz cycle area. So I have to tilt my head, or I have to turn or sway a little bit sometimes to zero in on you and hear you. I don't hear the same tone qualities in this ear that I do in this one. I can't hold a phone to this ear. I can hold one up here and hear you. If I hold the phone on this side, it sounds like you're talking down a wind tunnel, though I have less hearing loss in this ear. Odd. So thinking about Bigfoot and their unusual ability to hear you, uh, if if my hearing tests are any indication, I can hear all the way down to about 50, 52 hertz and all the way past normal human hearing. See, most people, they top out at about 15, maybe 18,000 hertz. Old test topped me out at 36,000 hertz because that's as far as the equipment could go. New tests today, I top out at 170,000 hertz on my high end of hearing. So if my hearing, like my eyes, are a genetic factor left over from my Bigfoot ancestry, it's possible that their hearing is similar to mine and that they have owl-like hearing. You can, I can, if I take the time, I can figure out how far away a sound is being made. I can tell you whether or not it's up a tree or on the ground, for instance, which is an oddity. So my guess is their hearing is probably far more acute than ours and probably very specialized. Because the other thing that was discovered was that my cochlea are longer. They're deeper and longer. So my ear channel is deeper and the overall cochlea, there's more hairs in it for me to hear stuff with. Probably similar to theirs. So my guess is with Bigfoot, they're probably have some very unique adaptations. And if you want to compare their hearing, or what you might think their hearing could be, what I think their hearing could be, it would fit within their range. Because an owl's hearing, the average hertz for normal owls to hear is between 200 and 12,000 hertz. No, yeah, 12,000 hertz. Some owls, though, can hear all the way down into the 4 to 10 hertz area and all the way up into the 18,000 hertz level. That is well past what most humans. Owls use their hearing by tilting their heads and listening to the ground to tell how deep a creature is moving underground. So when they're hearing in the open air, they're going to be able to judge things like distance, probably height terrain differences. Is their prey up a tree? Is it a squirrel? Is it on the ground in the leaves? They're going to be able to hear that. My guess is Bigfoot can too. And the reason why I say that is because before I had my double ear infections, I could hear small birds' wings flutter when they flew by me. I don't notice it now because that Hertz level is gone. So if I could hear a small bird's feathers rustling, I'm pretty sure Bigfoot has a very keen sense of hearing. So I think some of the swaying and the unusual head movement might just be them trying to hear better. It may absolutely have nothing to do with anything else other than hearing. But until we sit down with one, we aren't going to know. There's some of the other things that I discovered when researching a little bit about owls hearing. Mostly that the structure of the ear itself, the fact that owls have offset ears, up to a 1/4 inch difference on their owls, just like me. I do have a 1/4 inch difference. The openings are bigger and smaller. Oh, and the other thing is owls utilize a flap of feathers, very small feathers right here in the front of their open slit, because they don't have a normal open channel. They have a more almost gill-like slit, and they have feathers that help direct the sound, as do the facial feathers. They help capture and direct sound. When I put my hand around, use that same cup method, I can hear 3-4 times the distance. I can even hear a whisper at a couple 100 feet if I cup my ears, which is, I think, abnormal. I don't think most people can do that. So it's a possibility that they have very specialized hearing, and that they utilize that hearing not only to catch prey, but also to listen to conversations, most likely, especially with the level of fascination they seem to have for us. So I kind of wanted to bring that uh, into thought. You know, maybe they don't have along with the unusual body structure, maybe they don't have the same eyes, which I've already discovered and talked about. When I was dealing with Jen on the ranch when I was growing up, I noticed her eye structure was that of a mink. Um, she had nictitating membranes and stuff over her eyes, like a cat or a dog or aquatic animals, which shouldn't be there because she wasn't an aquatic animal. However, if she comes from a lineage of primates that swam a lot, there would be a reason for that. I don't have a logical answer for why they might have owl-like hearing, other than it would be a really great adaptation if you were surviving in the prehistoric world, which they probably did. At least that's my guess, is that they are another leftover historic creature. So to get into a little bit of the genetics as to why they would be a little bit different than us, but why they might still be classified as a human being. If you've noticed all of these shows that have come up with Bigfoot research programs, TV promotion, movies, etc., every one of those shows gets shut down once they find DNA evidence and it comes out as human. Well, that creates a whole new issue right there, because the only way they could classify their DNA as human is they have to have chromosome 2, the human chromosome. Also means they don't have 48 chromosome pairs, they have 46, because the one chromosome that creates human beings makes the difference, is a conjoined chromosome. The center, it's got a centimere chromosomal attachment and a telomere chromosomal attachment, meaning that the very first two chromosomes to fuse together in the very division of development. That does not mean that those two chromosome conjoinments are from the brainstem in, but from the derriere. Because in all actuality, the very first thing to form in human zygote is your sphincter muscle. Classification of TTA GGG, which is the center telomere centimere connection for our telomere chromosomal issue that makes us human, is two fused rear ends. That also suggests that we're probably a sport like a mule, except we came out viable. It also might mean that that division came about much further back in history than we realize. Currently, we're putting it hypothetically after we separated from chimpanzees. Except I don't think we separated from chimpanzees. I think they're just another cousin species. Who knows? We won't know until we learn more about our own genetics. So if you got any questions about my thoughts, time to present them. I'm going to go back and I'll read a few, and then we'll go on to the next section, which will be a little bit about how to try to translate some of the Kana and Kanji or other languages that you might find that Bigfoot lays down patterns in. Sorry for all the reflections in my glasses. I hope it's not too much. So let me go back up. Hey, everybody. Oh, good to see you guys. Please discuss Gabe Owens. I don't know who Gabe Owens is. I don't know about other researchers or other research that's going on in this field. I'm specifically talking about my native lore and my own opinions from my personal experiences with cryptids throughout my life. So I'm not up on who anybody is in the Bigfoot research world, or not even really familiar with stories about abductions, that sort of thing, except for the few that I've listened to online. So when you're dealing with trail talk, occasionally you'll have a Kana in the middle of your trail talk. Now, trail talk is completely different than Kana and Kanji. Trail talk, according to my native grandmother, is a rendition of ancient language that was utilized before petroglyphs, and that petroglyphs are based on the old grasp patterns and trail talk communications, and then language later developed once we figured out how to go from writing in sticks by laying them on the ground to carving stuff on rock, and then we figured out how to write on things like bark or use coal or, you know, a surface with a writing implement. But the Bigfoot, those cryptids have chosen either not to make that advancement, or they don't are aware of that possibility. My guess is they've chosen to stay as they are. And the reason I say that is because Jen Jen, the one on our mink ranch, the Bigfoot on our mink ranch, she could write on a slate board with a piece of slate, but it wasn't her first choice. She'd lay it down and walk away from it. She'd move away from it. And she'd make the rebuttal, I know my ABCs. So she was completely familiar with the ability to write on a surface with a softer substance. So I think they have chosen to keep their writing form the way that they do because they know it's subtle and mixes in and can be dismissed as debris as you walk on it because you're not going to notice it unless you know what you're looking for. So with Trail Talk, you have the very symbolic, very Native American form of communication. You know, you'll have the symbol for mountain being just a triangular shape. Uh, home is more or less the same thing, just a pair of crossed sticks instead of a triangular shape. So it's got two little poles on the top representation. To represent a mountain, it's just three little lines with the crossbar, but that also represents thunderbirds. So the trail talk is a much more ancient, patternized form of communication. And a little harder to teach. It has to be, I was taken repeatedly to areas where there was trail talk, and my mom would walk me through what the trail talk meant, and then we'd go find what the trail talk was referring to so she could prove to me what was being said on the ground was accurate. And so far I haven't been able to figure out a way of really showing all those patterns on paper yet. So I've just been trying to document them and teach you as I find them, as that's kind of how I was taught. Sorry for the delayed process in that, but the Kana and Kanji, that sort of thing, are a little easier to deal with. And getting into that, you're going to find probably across the world, definitely across the United States, multiple different kinds of writing forms that the cryptids can utilize. And it's probably due to languages that they have been exposed to, or relationships with marriages where they have to communicate with a bride or groom that they don't know the language of, so they learn the language. Sort of like when Jen Jen came to our ranch, she tried to teach me her language. I taught her mine process, so we ended up being able to communicate with each other because we could both figure out that Nia Kia Nidaba meant you and I are friends. But until we were able to bridge that language gap, all we did was tap at each other, and she would show me on the ground things and point to stuff. So until we created a language, learned each other's, then our communication was kind of at a standstill. Yeah, I had to rely on, you know, hand symbols, which thankfully I already knew some of my Native American hand talking, so it was easy for me and her to communicate that way because, we understood certain hand gestures. So that was a benefit. So when you're getting into Kana and Kanji, I use, well, you can use just about any language translating program out there that has the scan ability, meaning you can use your camera to pick up the image, and then it goes from there. I use Google Lens. I used to use the older, like 6.1 something or other version because it had a better format. Now, Google Lens is based off of the old Dragonov language program, if I remember right. And there is a phase that you have to go through when you're first teaching Google Lens to identify Kana and Kanji, because it will occasionally come back to one word as your answer. Worm. Worm is the default linguistic setting for language uptake in the program. So if it can't figure something out, it will tell you the answer is worm. And it doesn't matter how many times you try to scan that particular kana or kanji until you start turning it around and getting the program to go, it'll come out worm. So be aware of that. Other is you can utilize two different aspects within the Lens program to help you translate. The first is you can just scan it. That's going to be difficult though because a camera lens and the program doesn't pick up sticks laid out on other sticks or the ground very easily. So you have to write it down. So you have to, I usually just take a picture of the kana or the kanji, and then I write it out. I use a felt pen so that my camera can pick it up really well. And let me turn this around. So if I wanted to write the word dog, or the kana for dog, and something you'll notice when you're looking at the stick images, the material will typically be laid down in the order of the stroke. So this first stick will be laid down, then the secondary stick over, this one next, and then the accent. Once you get it to this stage, you take a picture of it. You can do just plain search of the picture. That usually will place you in a language set. It can also help you determine what period the language Kana is from. So that is very helpful. If you want it to translate, you can do a hover option, which means you're not taking a picture. You're just hovering your camera as if you're going to scan a QR code. And then you switch from search to, you can say that you want to translate from Chinese or Japanese to English. And that will usually work for it to scan and pick it up and translate it. It will create a hover text giving you the answer. If that doesn't work, because sometimes it doesn't, flip it around the other way. Translate from English, make the program break itself. Tell it that it's looking at English and you want it to translate into Chinese. So it'll take the Chinese character and it'll retranslate it into Chinese. At which point you can hover, take a screenshot, and then double check that your kana is the same as the Chinese translation. So you can check your own work that way. So that's the biggest thing, is you've got to have a plain white sheet of paper and nice thick dark lines. Try to place them in the same order that the sticks are laid in, because brush strokes with Asiatic languages is actually very important, and it will be caught in the translator programs. Because I've written down kanji in the wrong patterns before, and the program can't do it. But I'll sit there and I'll fix it, and I'll write it correctly, and all of a sudden it can translate it. So keep in mind, whatever cryptid is in your area, you have to first figure out what language they're writing in. Some write in ancient, really ancient dialects, not just Kana and Kanji. Some have been reported in writing in things like Nordic, laying down Ogham. Those are back east, and I know why, because there was a group of Vikings, 26 men and women, that came into Lake Superior. Was it 790, I think it was? Thereabouts. They stayed. They decided not to go home. Part of them stayed with Native American group at the southern point of Lake Superior. In Rockfield, Pennsylvania, is still the original longhouse that the Vikings built there. That particular settlement, it was Native American. That group never got hurt, bothered, moved off their land, anything, because they were 6 foot tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and had the last name of Albertson. Eliza Thunderbird Albertson's great-grandfather was part of that understanding. So recently, archaeologically, there has been evidence found. There was a sunken, burnt Nordic boat found in Lake Superior. That was the captain of the boat. There's lore about him dying, and he was buried in the traditional Nordic manner while living here in the States. So part of those people stayed with Weiss's ancestors, and 13 of them came across the United States following old trade routes from where they were back east to the west coast because they had planned on building another boat to continue their circumventing of the globe. Because they were told by the natives that there was another ocean, just had to cross the continent to get there. I don't know if those people ever made it. I know that there have been some unusual Nordic runes written on stone that have been found along their old pathway, their old trail, likely what they left behind because the story, the lore from the family says that the second group that went westward left the markers in place, and they're mostly referring to astronomical stuff, directions, showing on the stone how to change your direction and which way, which path they went on, which trail they diverted to get to the west coast, potentially. We found a couple of those. Um, so there's the old lore of that sort of thing, but nobody pays any attention to that. I wish they did. Who knows how many other Vikings or other cultures came here, because according to lore, there were a lot of different cultures that we traded with and had good relations with internationally for thousands of years before we got intruded upon. But anyway, that is beside the point. Uh, so with the lens program, you have to write your Kana and Kanji down, or whatever glyph there is, because there's quite a few languages and writing styles that the lens program can actually identify, and you will discover there is a certain amount of Kana or Kanji glyphs, whatever you want to call them, depending on the language type that's out there. You're probably not going to be able to translate. So far, about 30% of everything that I've tried to translate, I can't. There are only a couple potential reasons. Either the pattern's been disturbed before I took a picture of it, and I don't have an accurate kana or kanji there, or whatever the kana or kanji means is not in our dictionary. That's another possibility. We don't have a relevance for the word. Whatever the meaning of it is, refers to something that we are unaware of. That could be a concept, that could be a creature, that could be a particular name for something. Maybe they don't call deer deer, maybe they call them booga. I don't know. So there's a certain number of kana and kanji that you're probably not going to be able to translate, and we won't be able to until we actually have a real dictionary of their language. But being able to translate and keep them, make lexicons of their symbols, that's going to be helpful for future generations if they continue to research these things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really... Yeah, your biggest issue is going to be identifying the language compared to the trail talk. It's going to be the hardest thing for you to pull out. And I'm going to start putting up more little trail talk pieces as I find them, and just circling the kanji or kana that is found within the trail talk in my post section, so you can get a little better idea of what to look for and how to identify what's going on in the trail talk. So they use their kana and kanji minimally when they're out in the field. So you'll only find one or two kana or kanji in a specific area, typically, unless there's something going on. If they're communicating over a festival, they're talking about the birth of a child, big celebration, stuff like that, then you might find more complex kanji, like a formal invitation kanji, which is usually written out quite large, usually 3-4 foot. But until you find something like that, you're going to deal with small pieces of small sections of area, and you're only going to find a small, little set, maybe one or two kana or kanji. But like I said, the Lens program does a really good job. It can give you a hovering translation. Like I said, the other option, if you can't get it to hover, is take a picture and then search the picture. If you can't get an answer through searching the picture, go ahead and try to translate it. If it doesn't translate, try it from different angles. Because the other thing is, believe it or not, most kana and kanji are readable from all four directions and say the same thing. So there is a possibility that your camera lens and the dictionary that you're referring to only knows one form of it. So that's the other thing. You can also turn. So if you can't, say you can't get it to translate in this direction, turn it 90 or 45 degrees. Try to get it to translate in that direction. If it doesn't, do it again. Do it again. Because eventually, somewhere, the camera will be able to identify it and translate it. So keep in mind, if you can't translate it, if you can't figure it out, try turning it. I have had some success with a few of the kana and kanji that didn't want to translate for me. I was able to get some translations that way. There is a factor, though. When you turn a more complex kanji, sometimes you'll find that the sides all translate differently, and they're typically a story or a poem. I have one kanji like that I took a picture of going on 5 years ago now, and I've only managed to translate two sides. I'm still trying to figure out how to translate the other two. But so far, the two sides that I have been able to translate, it was a kanji found in the middle of a teaching area where the Bigfoot elders were teaching young ones how to write. And it is about the history of their language. And in this area, they call their kana and kanji pinyin, which is an ancient form of Chinese. And in the translation, they give a time allotment of 25,000 years of pinyin being taught here in America. Oddly, every lexicon that we have to date in our textbooks are only 5,000 years old. So they have 20,000 years more words, definitions, and language that we either no longer use or we never learned. I don't know. Something to keep in mind, though, because if they are a really prehistoric culture that has been writing for 25,000 years, that puts it back closer to the petroglyph era, which is 38 to 40,000 years ago, giving about a 10,000 year leeway for understanding how to write. Possible. Very possible. Especially when the way my grandmother described it, that writing the kana and kanji didn't come around until after we took our trail talk from ground spore to wall spore. And then when we put it back to ground, we came up with the language. So who knows? It's a possibility. It's what the old lore suggests. Okay, let me go up, answer some questions. My goodness. All right. And I'm so sorry if I didn't answer questions last week and you're here this week. Please put your question up again. I ran out of battery last week. Yes, singster. Yeah, it does explain some people, Phil. Oh, okay. Gabe Owens has nothing to do with Bigfoot. Andrew Peacock wrote the 2021 guide on Bigfoot in the northern Michigan Peninsula. Awesome. Okay. Yep, conflicting opinions. Okay, when you Google Gabe Owens, you get a bunch of stuff about car dealerships. Hey, we'll leave it to the internet. They want to try to sell you something before they give you any answers. It's awesome these days. Greetings everyone from Saki East Devon. Hey, your area in Europe there, the British Isles looks a lot like here. The weather's very similar too. When I hopped off the plane at Hampton Airport, I thought I hadn't left my valley yet. I caught one on video, young one, I think, last fall. Oh wow, it's partially cloaked. I could not see it with my eyes. Yeah, but the GoPro caught it. That's the other thing I've noticed, yeah. Your camera, even with Bigfoot being phased or cloaked, sometimes can still catch them. It depends on how good they are at what they do. But I have a couple pictures that suggest you can catch them with the lens. I've noticed I can see them with my camera phone, but not with my naked eye. Why is that? Well, my native grandmother used to claim that Bigfoot could make you think you couldn't see them, is how she put it. So in her explanation of that, it was that they project into your mind that they are not there, and that's why you don't see them, because you're believing what they're projecting at you. So over the years, what I've learned to do when I go into a Bigfoot's area, I kind of shield myself from that sort of intrusion on the energy level of it, so I can still see them. Because otherwise, yeah, I've been in areas where I hadn't seen them. I could hear them. My camera could pick them up, but visually I couldn't see them. I've learned to kind of instinctually find them at times. Okay, can someone tell me why there is an overlap of faces when I take a picture that make up a face? Sometimes it's 3 or 4 faces that make one face. Well, if they're projecting their aura and trying to make you think there's something else, it's a possibility you're catching their aura projection. I do have one really good example of a small group of shaman Bigfoot that were goofing around, and one of them decided to do an aura projection of an old cartoon character for me. It's in my post section. So they do have the ability to create kind of the effects that a ghost does. Turn of the century, there was a lot of talk about ectoplasm and that the aura is made up of a tangible energy field that can be molded or shaped by thought. It's a possibility that something like that is going on, if those old theories are even relevant. Okay. Phil had a large one walk past 10 years ago. Dry fall day. Most leaves crunchy like potato chips. Could not see it, but heard it. Yep, I've been there. I've heard that. When I walked down in the bed system, 2 months ago now, um, I went further into the bed system. I got followed. I couldn't see the individual. I knew he was there, and I knew he was getting closer, but visually I couldn't see him. And I didn't try to record him or take a picture of him because I was kind of testing the water there to see how they reacted to being intruded upon for a prolonged period of time. Because there's always one that likes to follow me in that particular group. I think it's probably the big male of the group. He's probably just watching out for the kids and the wife. But he won't let me sit down in that area for more than about 20 minutes. And then he starts getting really close. And I don't like that, so I leave. So, yeah, I think they use their cloaking definitely to obscure your sight of them. And I think they also project. I also wonder if some of the fear response that we have is actually them being afraid of us and projecting their fear in a tangible way. I don't know if anybody's considered that one. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know, Phil. It's part of the other reason why I wanted to get better lenses for my camera. You know, if it isn't something that they are doing, that it is something that the Oculus of my camera is doing. Yep, they always travel in a family group or a hunting group. During the day, you'll see more family groups, uh, but they also take the kids hunting at night. So you might have a group of males that are out hunting at night, but mom and the kids are going to be somewhere close. Uh, I mean, the whole family group sits here while the younger ones hunt in this area. They'll sit in safety. And you'll see that when you're out looking for ground spoor. And if you find an area where you've got markers for deer trails, you know, where they're putting X's over deer trails, you'll find somewhere along that route, if you follow the deer trail and the Bigfoot's evidence, you'll find a sit spot, usually with a central corral for a bunch of little kiddos to play in. That's, you're going to find that real close to wherever they hunt, usually. I'm too old to learn a new language. I think just speak English. Oh, in my area, respond in English via, yep. A lot of them actually know how to speak English these days. That was one of the things when Guanch and Jen Jen got married. You know, Guanch asked if the kids should speak English or not. And Jen Jen said no, she didn't want her kids to speak English. And I said, well, how are they ever going to talk to their sister, me, if they don't teach them English? Um, but they decided to teach their children English, and I think that a lot of Bigfoot over the last probably 30 or 40 years have started teaching their young English if they can. It makes it easier for them to understand us. Whether we take the time to understand them or not is irrelevant to them. You know, they need to know what we're saying, because if we're warning them about something, or we are screaming at them or reacting to them, it's better that they know what we say. Well, in the thumbnail for this stream, I see three faces. Well, there's one adult and two babies in the picture. The big male in the picture is my little brother. He's one of Jen Jen's kids. And the two little ones down in front are my niece and nephew. Yep, the tree structures are a form of messaging. That's very true. Everything happens. Hey, Rosie. How you doing? They live by water in this area. We have a couple of groups of them that go up and down the rivers here. They go on trade routes throughout the summer. And they start in early spring and go all the way to fall. And along the particular stretch of river, at least 4 to 6 groups of different cryptids traverse it and trade along it. So you're going to find cryptids around any waterway, around lakes, near oceans. They're a great food source. They're a great way to trade. They're an easy way to hide if you're trying to move undetected. You can float down a river hundreds of miles in the middle of the night and nobody would be none the wiser, for instance. Yeah, Sasquatch, Ontario uses whiteboard for and felt pens. Yeah, I wonder about that. I'd like to see some more of the writing there. Yep. Yeah, holding your phone down is a very easy way to catch them. Otherwise, I just go in and I ask for volunteers. And that's usually how I get what I get. That or I, get lucky and I find myself in the middle of an entire group and they don't mind me there, so I take advantage of that. That's the mixed group. They don't seem to care that I'm there until it gets on towards the evening. Then they'll occasionally throw something at me to tell me to leave. Or they'll physically tell me to leave. You go now. Something I hear out of them every once in a while. Ah, that would make sense, Phil. Apparently fear is the easiest emotion to project. I can believe that. Hey, Jerry. Yeah, I just found another sit spot here in the backyard, believe it or not. One of the juveniles decided to take up sitting between a pair of rose bushes back there. Left his walking stick in the middle of it and everything. Well, I don't know if they can use any language. I think it's more to shizzle. I think it's more to the location and what language they've learned. Up here in the Northwest, you can sometimes speak Japanese or Chinese. Japanese, typically the Guanche will speak. Chinese, for some reason, is what the dogmen speak here. But I've also found writing on the ground that suggests languages like Peshat or Urdu variations. So I would say it's probably whatever original language they spoke or whatever language they have learned from marriages, because it's all possible. You have to remember, we think of Native Americans, for instance, as being all one culture and speaking all one language, except in a 100-mile radius, you could have 3 or 4 or 5 different tribes None of them spoke the same language. That's why we used trail talk and hand talk, because especially, and not all tribes used hand talk. That was kind of partial to the plains people. We developed hand talk so that we could trade with anybody surrounding us, though we couldn't speak their language. Because on the plains, I think there was something like almost 200 different languages. Most people can't master more than 20 or 30 in a lifetime. So how are you going to communicate for trade or anything, hunting, whatever, if you don't have some way of conversing with each other? You have to either lay it out on the ground and draw pictures, or you have to talk with your hands, because your mouth isn't going to work. Your language isn't receivable. About Kana, do they indicate family, species, or cultural groups? That is possible. Like I said, dogmen in the city speak Chinese. Most of the Bigfoots seem to speak Japanese, but I've also found a couple groups speak native languages. I just recently found a group that speaks Lakota. Um, that's part of somebody in the mixed group actually speaks Lakota. Abenaki, which is another Native American language, is a very commonly spoken language by Bigfoot. So, that's why I use Kiwa Nidava, hello, friend. It was the language that Jenda, the Bigfoot on our ranch, when she came to our ranch, she spoke Abenaki. The Bigfoot that my native grandmother grew up around, they spoke Abenaki. So that was her first language from them. It just depends on the language type that they know. That's why it's important to kind of try to figure out what they're speaking and then try to classify it. Can you break it down to a time period? Because, here I can. 300 BC Zhao period Chinese and 500-year-old Edo period, pre-Edo period Hiragana and Katakana. So if you can isolate the language timeline, it will help you find appropriate lexicons. The other is when you get into Chinese characters and Japanese characters, you'll discover that, you could have 1,200 the same word. Or the same word can have 1,000 different meanings. For instance, the Japanese word for yes, hey. Okay? You want to tell somebody to go, themselves? Hey. All you do is elongate the I sound at the end of it, and you tell them to go F themselves instead of saying hello. Sort of like the difference between Ranik with a Q and Ranik with a K. One says you love your mother, the other one says your mother. So pronunciation, elongated vowels, all have a little different meaning in Asiatic languages and can lead to way different understanding of a word. Keep in mind, that's difficulties of trying to learn their languages or even trying to catalog their languages. It took me forever to figure some of this out. I mean, I've been out this most of my life, and I'm still only at this level. I'm still only able to do part of it. Oh, thank you, Bad Pup. Happy Saturday. Well, I can speak a multitude of different languages. Just depends on the area they're in. Okay, Phil. I've heard them use Italian words, and that's samurai chatter and English. Yeah, I got one up the hill here that likes to speak in Tagalog, and I never expected to hear Tagalog since that's a Filipino language. But, if you start looking at these things more as maybe archaic humans, um, then it may make more sense to have some of the bizarre language combinations. Because we know that some of our ancestors got here by coming by boat, some came over land, um, some of us were already here. It just depends on where they originated from. And have they been here? Have the particular groups been here forever, or have they migrated? Because I think that most life has always been in the places that they have begun, but we're also 4.6 billion years old. So anytime we have a chance to migrate, we're going to do that. Especially if there's something attractive on the other side of the fence, like different animals to hunt. Or we are, facing a drought situation, we're going to relocate. If we aren't pinned into staying there for any reason, which we weren't in ancient times, there was no division of countries or governments to say you can't walk halfway across the world to go do what you want to do. Migrations are going to happen due to need. So whenever the planet has been too icy or too covered with water or too hot or whatever, we would have adapted and moved. Do I have a Kana to identify myself? Yep. Um, when I was 8 years old, Jen Jen named me, and she gave me my Kana. Named just a triangle. It means seize your house. The Abenaki name is Nimi Wigi Way Met. Nemi Wigi Way Met. What a long word to remember. But just the triangle for representation. Just means the triangle meaning the house. And then she put a line under it, meaning I always could see her house. I could always find her no matter where she was. So I became Nemiwegi Waymet. Nemiwegi Waymet. So anyway, at the age of 8 is when Bigfoot are named, because the first 8 years is the period in which they're most likely to pass away too soon. Infant mortality is very high in their cultures, and it's for a variety of reasons. It's namely due to either illness, starvation, or attack. Usually it's a coyote, dog, something that injures the child, or drowning. Those are the most common. So, they don't give their children their adult names until they turn 8 years of age. At 10, they're able to marry. So if they make it to 8, they are then considered a viable adult within their community. In Japan, the Ainu have a similar practice as people. And they name their children their adult name at age 10 with a similar little ceremony. I found that to be very unique. Okay, let me a female and tell my friend that she wanted to be my sister. There was a ceremony for that. Is that correct? Yes. Adoption is the ceremony. Jen Jen and Guanch formally adopted me, which means we sat down face to face together, and they explained that no matter where I went in life, they would always keep me in their heart and in their mind, that I would be considered their offspring, and that their children would be considered my brothers and sisters. So it's a formal little adoption. You do it face to face. But you have to be willing to sit down next to one, which I'm sure you'll be fine with, Lenita. Okay, bad pup. We have a limited visual light spectrum for vision. The camera has the ability to see a broader light spectrum and pixel images the eyes can't detect, and hence the camera can pick up their detail. Very good observation, and very true. Here's your hat. Alright, the shizzle, I think the language thing is that they are referring to is when they link up with your mind, and the ones that don't, it's because they can't mind link or mind speak. Well, telepathy is a learned thing, and not all of them bother to learn it. Just like some people have the ability telepathically, naturally. Some don't. Some have to learn it. Okay, Bearman told me leave repeatedly. I was shifting him a safe location. Do so. I told him to stay out of my line of fire, and I'd leave when I was done. See, that's a disrespect we would have never done as Native people. But that's something that a lot of people have the attitude of today. You're all on borrowed land. We are all on borrowed land. We are on borrowed time. We don't live here forever. Our time is poignantly short. That's why we always try to extend respect to our fellow man. Just because they look like something else doesn't mean that they are something else. That's why some natives were able to call them their forest brothers, and some always were at war with them. It's our actions that cause the issues in some cases. In fact, probably in most cases with cryptids. There have been plenty of times I've walked into places I should have not been, and I've walked right back out. There are only a very few places I know not to go because I will get hunted, so I avoid those areas. But with a friendlier Bigfoot, the Sabe, the Forest Brothers, you can walk in and out of their territory. You don't have to harass them or threaten them in any way. You're hunting on their land is the biggest issue. See, that's the other thing. People don't seem to understand how tribal lands worked. Basically, think of a big bubble system. Your bubble runs up next to another bubble. Property line. That's your hunting territory. The next tribe over's got their bubble. Your bubbles meet on the edge. If you cross that bubble, if you got good hunting relationships, no biggie. If you got bad hunting relationships, it means you're going to get killed by the opposing tribe. So you don't go on to their hunting land without permission. We don't extend that respect because we never learned that respect as this culture. Modernly, we don't care. We look at divisions and fence lines and property and ownership and yada yada. And it's mine, not theirs. You can't take it with you. Whose is it? Really? It's the next generations. the ones that come after you, that's always been the native lesson I was learned, taught, made to learn, made to think about. I'm borrowing this land for as long as I live here. I am expected to return it in the same condition or in better condition for my children and my children's children. If I destroy it in my generation, they have nothing. Well, Bad Pup, I had a conversation last year with a freaking Bigfoot in Japanese, and I wish I would have had my phone with me that day. I would have loved to have recorded it. Maybe I can get him to talk to me again. Occasionally he will. He's one of the ones up on the hillside behind me here. Okay, and Cherry, we have Grassman in Ohio. Haven't heard that anyone has communicated with them. Native Americans used to communicate with Grassman. But it hasn't happened in generations as far as I'm aware. Ah, it's alright, Phil. No, it's just the way we look at things today. We don't look at our world as being part of us. We look at the world as something we walk on and take from. Like it's always going to be here for us. It'll only be here for us if we take care of it. Look at how much we've done to it in the last 100 years. And I'm not talking about just the environmental stuff, but the scarification of the surface of this world. Here on the West Coast alone, all that's left of our great trees are what's left of the redwoods and the sequoias. Those types of trees used to extend all the way from Southern California all the way up through Canada until we cut them all down 100 years ago. It takes 10,000 years for some of those trees to take hold and grow. Sequoias only take, and redwoods, the only way they really produce from seed is it takes an incredibly long period of time. One male tree covers 200 acres to 1,000 acres of female trees for fertilization. And that fertilization only happens once every 100 or so years. So the majority of those forests grow much more like strawberries. When they fall, they grow new life. When they throw out enough root system, they throw up shoots to create new trees. Otherwise, it takes really long time for them to sprout from seed. Hundreds of years. And for them to reach the size that some of them were, thousands of years. They got mostly made into toothpicks and housing. And we aren't going to see those trees ever again in our lifetime, our grandkids' lifetime, or even the next 5 generations. They won't have enough time to grow. Jerry, I teach classes for people who like to have communication with Bigfoot tribes. So yeah, it's kind of what I was doing with the trading. Trying to show how easy it is to trade by using an X and just letting them build the trade with you. Once you can do that, They get closer, makes it easier to catch video or sound of them. Pardon. There is. I don't have a lot of interactions with Bigfoot by a mind speak. All my interactions are vocal. I don't know why there's such prevalence of it elsewhere. Seems to be a rarity here. Okay, I heard that they use odd Old Douglas language, which is native dialect. Oh yeah, there have even been some accounts of them speaking Chippewa, Paiute, and other languages. Okay, the shizzle. Hearing them, but you mentally can see they talk to each other. There as they watch you and study what you're doing. So on and so forth. Yeah, I would assume, because I would assume that is particularly a correct assumption there, decisional. And the reason why I think that might be possible was because the day that my Bigfoot father led me to another researcher's home to try to run him over with his grandkids, I couldn't figure out how he could get ahead of me. Because I was driving in a vehicle on back roads. He wasn't getting ahead of me. And he wasn't signaling in a way that I could delineate. He'd tap so I could turn at a corner. Or the individual sitting was tapping. But I was moving too fast for them not to have been seen. The ground was way too open. So either they were listening for the same tap that I was utilizing to turn on the back road, or they were communicating in some other way. It was far more subtle, potentially ESP. Yeah, and Phil does have a long history with telepathy with them, and some people do. I've never had that luxury. And one and only time I had an experience with what I thought might have been, telepathy. It's a good possibility it was just an infrasound bounce with, language being written on it like a radio signal. I don't know. And without, like, some way of recording it or verifying it, I can't prove a dang thing about that. But, writing on the ground that I can translate, I can prove that. Okay, I need oh, okay. Shizzle. I don't know what the emoji meant, but I thought it didn't look up. Yeah, I think that was right. Okay. Lenita, you've given me an idea. I think I will start trying to teach them my English words with sounds and visuals. Teach them like you would a kid. That's how Jenjen and I kind of taught each other language. I would roll, you know, I'd give her food and I'd tell her what the food was. You know, was it grape? Is it a corn? Your corn? Was it a bean? She'd give me her word back. So we learned it. So it's possible. Bad pup. I have a picture of a juvenile Bigfoot that a hiker stumbled upon. Was he passed? Have a good one, Lenita. Nobody ends the land, but the planet itself. Billy, wives, I have every right to be here. I don't cater to being bullied. And that's the rub of it. See, it's not about being bullied. It is difference of opinion. Your opinion is you bought your land and you own it. Their opinion is they've always lived on it, were born there, and it's their hunting ground. It's the only difference. It's opinion. Very true to Sizzle. We're just we just use it and are supposed to keep it good and replenish, not take without giving back. Okay, bad pup. What areas in Canada and US most Sabe live you know of? What do sun-faced Sabe look like? Sun-faced are not Sabe. Sun-faced are red bun people. When I refer to Sabe, I'm referring to those species within the groups that are friendly towards people. The Guanche, patty looking type Bigfoot are typically friendly. Those that look like chimpanzees, I think what you think are snouted Janoskwa are actually more likely Oma, like Gentian, friendly species. Sabe refers to the groups or the species that are more friendly and amenable towards human. Sun-faced people, Gugwe, Janoskwa, some of the others, they aren't friendly towards people. They will hunt you down and potentially eat you. In particular, the Gugwe are really good at that. And the sun-faced people, sometimes you can buy your way out. Sometimes you can't, depending on the type, because there are at least 3 different types of sun-faced people I know of in this city, state, regional area. We've got gray-faced Gugwe, we got gray-faced Gugwe down south. We've got in Central Oregon 2 different types of sun-faced people, and we have another, what they call the Salal people, or sun-faced people out on the west coast, on the coastline. None of them are particularly friendly, and usually kind of dangerous to us. So it's a delineation. Sabe means they are our forest brothers, they're the ones that we can trade with and talk to and hunt with and get goods from. If you try that with a red bone person, they'll probably capture you, they'll probably enslave you, or they'll eat you. They don't really have any care about our well-being, put it that way. To shizzle, native nature and instinct will keep you safe if you listen to them. Yep. To the point you can feel it physically, or we must pay attention. Okay, what do sun-faced sabe look like? So sun-faced people have skin tone very similar to ours. They are pale-skinned, or they look like a sunburnt human. But they're still black-haired. They still have short black hair all over their bodies, like any other Bigfoot. Their facial features are very humanoid-looking. Most of them have a weaker chin, slight chin, but in every regards their face looks human. Sabe Bigfoot, like the Guanche, Oma, they have gray skin like a gorilla. And then your Gugwe have really dark charcoal skin, almost this color, black. And again, they look very human in the face. The Sabe look more primate-like in the face, but they're friendlier. How does that happen? Okay. Now, Phil, my understanding of land. Crown land is that I have a legal right to access. Yeah, exactly. And the other species living on the property that was there before you have no legal right because they are not legally identified as human beings. That's exactly my point. See, the majority of us that don't run around with hair-covered bodies believe that the other ancient archaic species of us that are still around are just animals. We don't know. If they keep showing up with human or not telomere, but if they keep showing up with chromosome 2 in their DNA mix, in their tests, then I'm sorry, they're an odd-looking human. Which means if they were represented by the law, they could sue you. And the crown. But nobody freaking recognizes them. Nobody cares. And nobody's going to care as long as our attitude remains the same. Ownership. And they're just a dumb animal. We have no idea. If they are an archaic creature like Australopithecus, a Neanderthal, etc. Mind you, Gugwe are almost exactly like Neanderthals when you mask up the face and you do a, rebuild on them, like for forensic diagnosis. A Neanderthal skull looks a lot like a Gugwe. So if they are actually an archaic human, they already technically do have legal rights, which would be a very good reason why to throw their DNA test away every time and claim they're just a freaking monkey. Because you don't want to give them their due. Anyway, my opinion. Guess what percentage of Native American and First Nation would have shared DNA as biological type beings? Well, at one point in time, it was very common to share DNA with these things because we intermarried with them a lot. Over the last 100 years, though, that practice is no longer allowed. So the percentage of their DNA is dwindling in our species, and our DNA in theirs is probably dwindling. And just, if you're going off of the genetic factor, probably somewhere between 5 and 10% of the Native American population probably has, along with everybody else on the freaking planet, probably have some sort of cryptid DNA. Neanderthal DNA. It's just identified cryptid DNA, actually, potentially, for instance, or Denisovan. Those are just archaic creatures that are part of our family line, but are supposedly died out. What if they didn't? What if we've been running around claiming that Bigfoot is a space-dwelling monkey when he's just a surviving historic ancestor? Yeah, it's like getting a broken toy for Christmas. So right, it's just okay. Philip Bearman follow me around and was watch my many hunts. I can't stop him, and I should respect my intent. Yes. Yeah, but he sees you as hunting on his hunting grounds, and that you're trespassing. Why should he respect you? To give you a question, why? Why should he care? He doesn't recognize your crown. He doesn't recognize land ownership. He doesn't recognize you with legal rights because under his law, you don't have legal right. That's the other thing. Cryptids still have laws, or we would have never put the Gugway on a pig pole for the abuse he perpetrated upon Jen Jen. So the other is, there's a legal system out there that we're completely unaware of that belongs to the cryptids, that they follow, that they go by, that they conduct their daily business by, that we're completely unaware of it. Okay, David. What are craftsmen? Are they type of hayseed dogman? Potentially. I have heard through the lore that the craftsmen of Ohio are one of two things, and there's lore about both. So some of the lore suggests they are dogmen, and other lore suggests that they are more humanoid, that they look more like people or like Patty, like a normal Bigfoot. Um, with some suggestion that they actually might be even more like a wild man, a little more intelligent, a little less hairy. The one video I saw of somebody going into a grassman's ground hut. There were two little guanch babies in it, so I'm assuming they're just another form of Bigfoot that lives under the grass. We've got dogmen and Bigfoot that do that here, that live in the valley's grasses. And they'll hunker down in those in the middle of the night, and you can step on them and not even, until you step on the individual and you're wiggling on skin, you don't even realize they're there because they just look like a lump of grass. But there is a creature underneath the grass, and they aren't made of grass or anything. It's just the way they hide. My goodness, dog, are you dreaming? You kicking your feet or something? You are. You're dreaming. Okay, baby. Okay, we are part of this. It's just we are part of this universe, and being energy doesn't die. Our physical presence dies, but another comes. We are all linked and just haven't learned enough about it, or we would be forced to forget it. Yep, very true. You also have to remember there is no new fresh water on the planet. 10% of our water has always been fresh water. Once we use that up, it won't come back. The other is everybody on this planet has drank that water at least once in their life, probably multiple times. And that's been true for millions of years. So if you want to ever talk about a medium in which we could share information and be completely unaware of the fact that we were sharing it, water would be a good source for that. It would be a way you could retain information, share information potentially, if you're looking at a very sympathetic relationship with it and with the world around you. Okay, Phil, it's not a perfect system, but it's better than irresponsible past clear-cut practices. Yeah, very true. Take care of your sizzle. Hero, do you know if there are any good books out there to learn hand talk? Oh, let me think. Yes, I cannot remember the name of it. Uh, you have to you have to go to the kids section, believe it or not, in the library. I think it's Native Hand Talking is the name of the book. I can't remember the name of the author. It was a little hardbound book, and it's actually quite extensive. It's got nice photograph pictures of each hand communication with a description of the variations of the symbol, what other ways it could be made and still mean the same thing. It was made in the 70s. It was printed in the 70s. Somewhere I still have a copy of it. I'll see if I can look it up online, and if I can, I will post something in my post section, maybe with a list of books or something, if I can find any good books these days. I haven't looked into it because I learned it when I was a kid, and it's just always been there. Okay. You have more mind than vocal, but also physical. Oh, okay, to shizzle. Okay. Sosa? Huh. Alright. Now, Phil, have you ever been relocated twice, time loss, or put in unfamiliar area? No, I haven't had those experiences. I mean, I walked through a time anomaly, last year and recorded it. But I walked back out. Okay, dispersal telepathy definitely leaves you with more questions than you started out with, and wanting to look into the phenomena even more to understand. That makes sense. I've never really had that kind of an experience though. My interactions have always been very direct, very in your face, and just like I'm sitting and talking to you guys. Otherwise, I'm at distance and I'm, listening for them. But, I realize they're there because half the time I can see them walk by and sometimes I catch a picture. Uh, Very true, Phil. Governments are the biggest bullies of all because they really like to push all of us around. Okay, bad pup. What sape or red bone are around 11 foot tall? Um, well, we have giants around that height here. Some Bigfoot don't stop growing. That's another possibility. And then the more caveman looking red bone people with the fair skin, they can reach up to 12 feet in height. And they've still got black fur all over their bodies, but they have a very human looking face and they've got human skin tone. So that might be a possibility. And we've got those big guys like that up in the desert here. Phil, most of the saw Bigfoot cryptids here seem standoffish. I suspect they fear me more than the reverse in the past. I think they mostly accept me these days. Well, that's sort of like the group here that I've been, the Skookum boy and his family I've been trading with. After the little one, and once I discovered they had a little one that passed, I stopped all trading, give them time to mourn, do their thing. And now, today, they come back. There's sign down. So they probably want me to gift again. And probably won't be recording it. I'll probably keep that more private. But I did want you guys to have an example, to kind of walk you through how quickly you can accelerate the trade into more interactions with each other. But they haven't gotten all upset because I stopped giving them stuff. They just offered me more pine cones for stuff. So, they give you a lot of leeway in some cases. And they don't expect a lot from us. So that's the other thing. A lot of people haven't interacted with them for over 100 years. So without that interaction, they're going to take some time before they bother to trust you. If they ever bother to trust you. Okay, to Shizzle, the adolescent one that I saw for teenager was charcoal looking skin with a humanoid or Neanderthal type face and scraggly orangutan like hair. Oh, that might have been a Yaren or a Skookum. They have red hair that's longer. Most of the darker, with the exception of like Gugway, they have 4-inch long body hair. But most of the darker, the black hair structured Bigfoot have shorter hair, 2 to 3 inches in length. Uh, the more orangutan ones with the red hair, longer hair, and then the ones that have really long black hair and bald heads, those are all different species. This is a little, basically look like a 7.5 foot tall from the land lost. Ha! I lost Will Ferrell, who was an athletic as hell body tone, but you could tell it was a teenager. Oh yeah, they are very muscular, that is for sure. Now you have to build a good reciprocal relationship, meaning if you choose to trade with them, you always have to be reliable. You can't lie to them; that'll piss them off. You can't shortchange them; that'll piss them off. That's why it's easier just to do a trade with an X. Gives you a lot more leeway. They don't see you as a how would you say? They won't see you as having a bad character if you don't always give. If you go for doing a mai, trying to buy sell with them, you better know how to speak their language and count, because that gets very particular. They will set a price, and you have to pay the correct price, and it has to be consistent every time, or you won't get what you're trading for. I mean, I got lucky. I traded what it was about a dozen bananas and cupcakes and a bunch of other stuff, and then I finally got a tool, and that's because the juvenile decided I needed something more for what I was giving. I didn't ask for a tool. I didn't want to discuss a price for a tool, but I had put it out there. If he had a tool to spare, I'd love to have a tool from him. He finally gave me one. So that's part of how I collect some of the items that I collect, is I try to trade with them and overtrade with an X so that they will overpay me. And occasionally I'll get something good, carved stone or a tool. Okay. Randy, hello. Do the mean ones mostly stay hidden up in the mountains? Uh, Not necessarily. Uh, the one down south here that's the Gugway, he's on a major riverway. He lives on one particular stretch of the river. There are good sabi on the side that I go to, but that bugger will swim across the river when I am there to try to get to me. So it's more where they've always habitually lived, where they've hereditarily been. That's why I always tell people refer to your local native lore. If your no local native lore says that you have a vicious species of Sasquatch in the area, you're probably dealing with a red bone or one of those more primal species that's out for blood. Always go back to your native lore because they've got the most knowledge about what we lived around. And nobody's paid attention to that in the last 100 years, so nobody's been documenting these sorts of things till now. And I think Pelagius did a lot about that in his conjecture that they might have something, some of them may have something to do with missing 411 cases. You know, now all of a sudden we're trying to figure out where they are. They're always where they've been. Just go back to lore. Lore will tell you. I do not, Phil, I do not prevent cryptids from being his family. I think mutual respect on that regard. Basic understanding. That's good. There's a disclosure expected soon. I do not know if it will include cryptids. Yeah, I wonder about that. Yep, water does have memory. Well, if they are an archaic human, all of a sudden they'd have a whole lot more people that they can't make pay taxes because they're just not going to do it. And all of a sudden you'd have to include them in your society. I don't think a lot of people want to do that. Or would even, governments wouldn't even understand how to do that. How would you integrate an archaic human being with a modern human being? You have completely different value systems. You have completely different cultures. You have completely different physicality. Their kids could not go to school with our kids because the very first fist fight between one of their kids and one of our kids would make our kid a broken pile on the ground. So I think the reason why governments avoid even bringing the subject up is because there is no way of integrating them. It's physically, at this point, not possible. That, and how are you going to get to pay taxes? What are you going to do? And how would you charge one of these people with a crime and put them behind bars? It's not going to happen. I mean, unless you're living in science fiction world. Right now, we can't even figure out how to keep ourselves on track, let alone trying to integrate a new species or an old species that we've forgotten. Yeah, I dispute a lot of biblical stuff about them. I think that's a lot of presumption, personally, because, they don't fit the description. David, access is a bit chicken and egg if I want to go into an area and don't know that they are there. I can't really ask them. Then there's the issue of the language barrier to overcome. Well, most of them understand English, so the interaction is easy. Doesn't matter. Additionally, you've probably been around a heck of a lot more of them than you realize. When you go out and you hear what you call deer ticking, and you hear little tiny taps and little tiny rustles that sound like a freaking chipmunk following you, it's probably Bigfoot. Any little growl, etc., that isn't a deer, probably Bigfoot. You've probably been around them a lot more than you realize. Everybody's probably been around them a lot more than they realize. And they're literally everywhere. I mean, if they can sit here and make a sit outside the window, and they come through a gate to do that. They open and close the gate. So they understand how fence lines work. They understand how locking mechanisms work. How are you going to... You can't keep them out of anything that they want to be in. I've had that experience more than once. Heck, I even had the dog man trying to open my door when I was living in my yurt. So they're far too intelligent. They can walk around us and avoid us simply because they see what we do and they know how to move. I mean, we can do the same thing they can do. The other factor is, there's still some ancient tribal people from 150 years ago walked off into the woods with them. There are still accounts. In fact, I've got 3 pictures of humanoids in Bigfoot groups. One of them don't look like a modern man. The other 2 do. So there's also the factor that some of these cryptid tribal people might still have Native American tribal people living with them when they all walked off together 100 years ago into the wild. So they didn't want to surrender. They didn't want to become captives. They didn't want to be put on reservations. They chose to walk off into the woods. They chose to separate themselves from modern society. I don't think they're going to change their minds anytime soon. In fact, I know where there is one underground tribe that lives in a massive cave system. And their humans live with Sabe. They've been there forever. They've been there since 1839, 38, when they went underground. I'm probably one of the last people that knows where that group lives. But there are plenty of tribal people that have also walked off with them in the past. In fact, some of your missing 411 might actually be people just voluntarily walking off to go live with them. That's one thing people don't consider. It's a possibility. I've been witness to one attempt of a Bigfoot trying to talk one of my buddies into walking off in the woods with him because we were all playing, a capture the flag game up in the Bigfoot territory, and one of the Bigfoot sat one of my buddies down literally at the side of a freaking trail talking to him. My buddy didn't know what was laying next to him on the ground because he's over the edge of a small drop, dead dark, no flashlight, just a gruff voice talking to him. When I walked up and realized, he's talking to a Bigfoot, I asked him, what's the Bigfoot telling you? Oh, he's telling me the history of the world and wants me to come live in the woods with him. I'm like, well, he's inviting you. You can either walk off into the woods with him tonight, and we're none the wiser, and you'll stay hidden, or you can go home, and go back to work on Monday. He said, well, I gotta be back to work on Monday. So, well, that's your choice. So there's also the possibility that there's a lot more going on in the cryptids than we realize. And no, none of the tribal people walked off with Gugway or Redbone people. They didn't walk off with Sun-Faced people. They walked off in the woods with the Sabe, the Oma, the Guanche, the gray-skinned ones that are friendly. Okay. Under fire is something else to sense one when it's not visible. Any car drive by and turn back to see him clear in the open. Oh yeah. I tell them my intent whenever I go out. That's how I show respect. That works. That'll help them understand, Phil. Randy, I love watching your videos on trading and wanting to learn so much. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad that you're able to take advantage of them. Hey, how you doing? Big Island. Aloha. Demaze. I discovered you by watching a video of a mom and a dad and a baby urine walking in a creek. You commented that they were urine. Awesome. I'm glad you found my channel. I haven't seen that video of the urine since. I can't find it. Yeah, I've noticed that sometimes when I comment on videos, they have a tendency to disappear, unfortunately. Even ones I've hopefully wanted to cite more than once, I don't get a chance. Yeah, you can't tell Sasquatch to get a job. Yeah, he's gonna tell you to go yourself real quick there. Tina, imagine if they could help with yard work. I always need help with yard work. Yeah, they could be quite useful that way. But, you're dealing with a completely different culture too. They don't have the same value system that we have. We have the idealized version of it. We'd like to be like that, but they live it. You have to be honest with them when you're trading with them. For instance, you screw up a trade, that no more deal. You don't get to trade again. Okay. Bad Pop Chewbacca was disclosure. Yeah, it was really hilarious. What was it? They were filming the stuff with the Ewoks. They filmed that in the redwoods, and the actor who was playing Chewbacca, they made him stay close to the filming location because they were concerned that somebody would accidentally shoot the actor because he was dressed up as Chewbacca, thinking he was a Bigfoot. So there's that to consider. Okay, to shizzle, they could be intended by simplicity of their way of life and realize that this way we were meant to live and not work our lives way we make people richer than us and have no time to live, right? Yeah, there isn't an indigenous group on the planet that works as hard as modern man, never was. Indigenous people have always either done subsistence farming or hunting, and that's been it. The rest of your time's to yourself. But, we decided we wanted more and different, and we've created a different world because of it. Okay, shizzles. Yeah, you get one shot, and then you get nothing if you make it. Yeah, right? Now, I've made those mistakes in the past, trading with some of the Bigfoot. I was up on the res in Washington. I had one that I was trading. I was giving him chocolate donuts. And then one day, I didn't have chocolate donuts. I set my trade sticks aside and I never got to trade with him again. He absolutely flat refused. Yep, capital greed. Very, very true. So we're hitting almost the 2-hour mark here. I hope that this has been informative enough, and I hope that the little information on how to use the lens program is useful. Like I said, you can always just set it on translate and just have it do a hover translation. Otherwise, take a picture, try to get it to translate. If it doesn't translate, then go ahead and try to do a search. See if you can get the program to work with you. Usually it's really good. Usually it's very reliable. And there are other translator programs out there, but Lens is pretty easy to use and it comes standard on your phone these days. It's just that little, it looks like a camera image with a dot in the middle of it. Really easy to use. It's on your Google bar typically. Uh, on my phone, because it's an Android, it's on the far right hand side of my Google search bar. I don't know about iPhones where it might be placed on that, but I'm sure it's part of the general app sequence that's on your phone already. This shizzle, I messed up my trading timing and had chicken disappear. Yep, that will happen too. Sometimes they'll take what they want if they don't get what they need. Now, hopefully this has been a useful show today. I'll be back next Saturday, 3 o'clock again. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week's show on. If you guys have questions or you want a specific topic covered, go ahead and throw something in the comments. I'll see what I can do. Laura, up here in Maine, I read a report of a Bigfoot sighting that described it as dark, short-haired with claws, no fingers. How tall was that? Because Memowagon are considered to be a smaller version of a Bigfoot, they are not always said to have fingers, though. Memowagon are people eaters, and sometimes they're described as having claws. Might be Memowagon. Little people, not the good ones, not Weebla. All right, everybody, you have a great weekend. Thanks so much for being here. Like I said, go ahead and put some comments up. It helps me come up with good information for you. And, sometimes jogs a memory or two, which is always beneficial. I've been through a lot in my life. My memory is not the best after 7 concussions in my life. So, feel free to ask questions and I will do what I can. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope you have a good week this upcoming week at work. Appreciate you all. And take care till later.